So this is the purpose of today. We're just going to focus on what's happening on the market in which the business takes place. So let's go. First of all, when we look at the life cycle of a plastic, and this is coming from the United Nations, we see that there's a first phase that you see on the left, which is the raw material production. In case you don't know, plastic is coming from petrol, 99%, so from the oil. The second step here is manufacturing and using of the plastics. And the third stage is going to be the disposal. And of course, the best would be the recycling. But today we're going to discover it. A lot of it is not recycled, even though we think it is. And the most important point here is that, almost half of the plastic is used in the packaging industry. And then in buildings and constructions. Today we use plastic everywhere. It's even in the clothes, it's in the buildings, it's in every business. The definition of plastic is that it's a material that is very easily shaped into something and then has different properties of elasticity and solidity. But today, it's an illusion to think we can just ban plastic and then from one day to the other, the whole society just finds another solution. Of course, we're going to move to a world without plastic later on, but it will take maybe a few generations. If we're lucky, one and a half, in my opinion. So the game here is not, oh, plastic is stupid, we just ban it and then that's it. The game is we need to change paradigm, and we change paradigm on the planetary level, step by step, gradually. So that's what we're going to go discover today. I don't need to convince you of the plastic pollution disaster, especially if you traveled a bit in Asia or in North America. You see the plastic everywhere, in North Africa, sorry, and in the Middle East. This photo is a landfill. I've visited one like this in Bangkok. All the major cities actually have a landfill somewhere. The Bangkok one was 1 hour away from Bangkok. It's like a Sahara desert of plastic. And it's crazy. Until you see it, it's crazy. And these dunes are like 20, 25 meters deep. And it continues growing at a crazy rate. And in the ocean is the same. You go for scuba diving, you go on the beach, always you're going to find plastic. Sometimes it's horrible, sometimes it's a little bit. But people really talk about it more and more. So today we discover what is really the extent of this problem. Because a big problem means a big opportunity. You heard about the plastic continents. It used to be 1 in the Pacific, then 7, now it's 9. It's due to the stream currents in the oceans that just, pile up these islands. The biggest one, look at it, is the size of France, Spain, and Germany all together. It's 3 times France, and that's just the biggest one. And the UN says that there is more than 11 million tons every year that go in the ocean. And they know it's going to increase, even triple by 2040. So the thing is, we have a problem that is getting worse and worse every year. Just so you know, in Indonesia, for those of you who live in Bali or have been to Bali, on these 11 millions, there is 0.8, so almost 10%, that are going into the ocean from Indonesia. So there's on top of it a more crazy situation in Asia. In the sea, how bad is it? Because it's good to say there's a bit of garbage floating in the Pacific, but how bad is it really? By 2050, this foundation, the Ellen MacArthur, who is really active around plastic and is renowned in the world, say that there will be more plastic in kilograms, in weight, not in volume, than fish. Will be more plastic than fish in weight by 2050. This is tomorrow. I mean, we're still going to be there. So, of course, this research that I'm presenting is just for you to realize, holy shit, like it's a big problem, and that's great. It's great for business, not great for the planet. But there's something we can do. For example, this particular company that we work with, CORSAIR, they're very innovative, they're very smart. They found a way to collect the plastic from the sea without spending a lot of money. Today, to go get the plastic in the sea, getting a boat with fishermen that go in the sea just to get the plastic is very expensive and is not very sustainable. Of course, we need to stop the leakage of plastic into the sea before we clean up the sea once and for all. But look at this initiative. For me, it's just blew my mind. They made a partnership in Thailand with 7 fishing associations, 10,000 boats. These fishermen, when they put their nets in the ocean, they collect the fish and they drag the plastic onto the boat. And until now, they were just putting back the plastic into the sea. In this company we're working together with, CORSAIR, they decided to put in place this initiative. Tell the fishermen they keep the plastic on the boat, and when they go back to the harbor, they give us the plastic and we pay them. As simple as that. That's just an innovative way of dragging slowly the plastic out of the sea. It's very efficient and it redistributes some wealth to the fishermen. They did some similar initiatives in the slums with the really poor people that can just collect the plastic in the slums in Bangkok and then get a bit of money for it. Just one idea of an innovative way to collect the plastic from the sea. Okay, let's look at some numbers now, because it's good to talk about examples and beautiful images or horrible ones, but what are the numbers? We started to make plastic around the 1950s, and look at this graph. It's exponential, meaning every year we make more than last year, and it's going faster and faster. So today we can see we're about 500 million tons of new plastic every year. 500 million tons every year. That graph was up to 2019. Turns out, with the COVID that everybody has been ordering at home, this graph went up 20%. So it means it goes almost vertical. And the most crazy thing is that it will double by 2030. Meaning this point, it's at 500 million tons. It will go to 1 billion tons in just a few years here. So realize how bad it is. And that's why there is a great opportunity. And that's why the politics have to do something now, because we should have done something before. By the way, this is the combined weight of all the humans, 320 million tons. So since 2010, we're creating more plastic in weight than all the humans combined. And now more and more. There's nothing to do with this figure. It's just to have a cognitive idea of this mass. Now, if we look at the accumulation of all the plastic we've done since 1950, we reach probably now 10 billion tons. So that's if we add onto the calculation all the plastic we keep making every year. So let's say we made roughly 10 billion tons since 1950. Remember how much we need every year? We need 500 million tons. So that's 20 times less. What does it mean? It means there's 20 times more plastic hanging out in nature than the plastic we actually need every year. So it's a big reservoir, a big reserve of plastic that if we could really recycle it well, we could use it for what we need. And we would have, enough for the next 10, 15 years. And there is a way to do this recycling, actually, and we will discover it in the next call. Today is about the context. So there's a lot of plastic everywhere that is not being used. It takes sometimes up to 500 years to disappear and degrade. But we can do better. So there is an illusion in the West, in the modern countries, that this is a problem that's solved already. For sure, in France, we put in the bin that is the yellow, and we were told this is recycled. So we think, yeah, everything I put in the trash is going to be recycled. But this is not true at all. Actually, up to 10 years ago, we were just sending the plastic to China. And that's only the people who've been in this industry that know about it. And China closed the doors around 2016. So that's less than 10 years ago. Look at what it says. It was estimated that China imported 2/3 of all the global plastic waste. So there was a business to send containers to China. And not a little bit, 2/3 of all the plastic waste. So less than 10 years ago, the doors closed to go and just send the trash to Asia. The Philippines, around the same area, they sent back the containers to Canada with a big public thing saying that Justin Trudeau, we don't want your plastic waste anymore. So lately, something big has been happening, because when 2/3 of the plastic was going somewhere and suddenly now you have to do something with it, it presents some issues. So what do we really do with this plastic? This is the most optimistic study I found. The most optimistic, it says that up to 20% of the plastic is recycled. And I know it's around 8, 9, 10% maximum. But just out of good conscience, the maximum that it could be would be 20%. Then there's another portion that is burnt to get energy from it. It pollutes, but at least we get something from it. And we just don't leave it in nature. But most of it, it just ends up in the landfills or in the rivers or in the sea. If we look at all this plastic, where is it today? We discover, by this study that I found, that 60% of all the plastic that's been produced so far, 60% of these 10 billion tons is laying in nature, doing nothing and polluting. 10% was burnt already. So we got some electricity out of it, some heat, and then we dispose of the rest, which pollutes. Only 1% was recycled and is still in use today. Because if you recycle it, then you continue to use it. Guys, 1% of all the plastic that's been made since 1950 has been recycled and is in use. This is nothing. You see, it's a lie, the conditioning that we've been given, that everything we put in the special can is going to be recycled. And 30% is still in use, which is normal. You saw the progression, we're making more and more. So most of the plastic, let's say, is being made very recently. So 30% is in use today. 30%. Great, enough with the numbers. A little funny one. It was discovered by the WWF that a human being today, on average, eats the equivalent in microplastic of 1 credit card every week. And that's compiling more than 50 different studies by scientists. And that's public, you know, it's not a conspiracy. So realize that you eat already 1 credit card of plastic every week because it's in the food and in the water, whether it's bottled water or in the tap water, that doesn't matter. Unless you have a super special filter, the microplastic, they just end up in your body and God knows what it's going to do. But that's how bad it is. And the reason why we consume so much plastic today is because it ended up in nature and then in the sea and then in the air. So there is a direct impact to us humans, not just the planet. All right, so let's sum up the first part. We have a humanitarian issue for us, for our health, and a planetary issue because for the environment, for the animals. And you know, we don't want to leave for our children a garbage planet, of course, but that's what we were on the way to do. It's going to change now. This problem is international. Every country has this problem. It's complex because we use this plastic in every industry everywhere, and it's exponential. These are the characteristics of this market. It's international, complex, and exponential. That's why the UN and the European Union is getting involved directly. So the current paradigm today, or until today, was we're going to hide or burn the waste on our land, or we're just going to ship it to someone else. That's been the current paradigm since the 1950s. Today, depending on the countries, we have different options. We're going to discover them in the next call. But there is a very urgent situation which demands solutions. That's why the politics are getting involved. And that's why there is a wave to surf. So there is a market that is emerging. We're going to deep dive a little bit in each of these categories. First of all, the United Nations had 175 countries commit and sign 2 years ago in Kenya an agreement that is legally binding that we're going to discover right after. The European Union already passed the law. This is done, 100% for sure. By 2030, which is tomorrow, 30% of the new plastic must be made with recycled material. It's huge, 30%. I mean, if you're making plastic and you know how much we're making, suddenly you're going to have to find 30% of another material, not petrol, something that is recycled. So there's a great opportunity there in which our partner has been a pioneer. And finally, we're going to come back on it. We're not talking about something that is going to happen. It's something that is already happening. In 2021, the European countries, they paid already 6 billion euros in tax because they were late on their plastic recycling. So the companies and the countries, they know they cannot wait anymore because they're already paying big fines. So we dive a bit deeper because today we have time and it's a retreat. So I don't just show a slide and then basta. Let's go into the first one here. What is happening? The UN made these 175 countries sign what is called a legally binding agreement by the end of 2024. So they're still working on it, but we're in the midst of it. This legally binding agreement will force all these countries to implement restrictive measures and fines and penalties to their corporations in their countries. Meaning, they don't want to let the companies continue to pollute like they do. They're going to be forced to do it. And that's great, because that's how we're going to make things change in such a greedy world in the corporate landscape. So all eyes on this. You know, when the United Nations forces most of the countries to take action on plastic recycling, it creates a pressure on the companies that are using plastic and creating plastic, of course. And that's great for us. In Europe, in 2021, you can see here, the more the country is dark, the bigger they paid a fine. In total, they paid 6 billion euro to what? To the European Union. So that makes more money for the European Union. And that's the reason why countries, they want to find new solutions now, because they're late on the plastic recycling. Our partner, CORSAIR, they already opened this year a factory in Finland here. And why did Finland open the doors and roll the red carpet for this company? Is because they know they have problems with plastic recycling. This year, they also announced opening in Sardinia, a recycling center. So the more the countries have to pay big fines, the more they want to do something about this problem. That's how it works. I know there's some French people in this container know that France paid 1.2 billion euro. It's a big one. It's a big one. France, Germany, and Italy, they are the worst students in the plastic recycling world. Okay, so the regulations. It's good that the politics are asking to do something, but what are the regulations? Really, what is the stick for these companies? In Europe, we don't need to read the whole slide. The European Commission said, after studying the matter, today there is only 6% of the plastic raw material that's coming from recycling, meaning that 94% of the new plastic is made from petrol. That's very bad recycling. And of course, they're going to say, you know, if we recycle, we could save 100 billion euro every year. I found that myself on the website, by the way. So what did they do? They implemented a new law. Starting in 2030, you're going to have to pay a penalty of 800 euro per ton of plastic. When we know a ton of plastic just costs, you know, a few dozen euro, it's huge penalty. And that is why France paid 1.2 billion euro. They are now forced. There's a big fine, and it's a public matter that everybody has their eye on. So the regulations is forcing everyone to recycle more and more fast than ever, which is great for us, once again. So there is a solution, at least one of the solutions that is promoted here by our partner and by ourselves. It's called a plastic credit. If you're familiar with the carbon credit, it's a bit similar, but it here's with plastic. So what is it exactly, this plastic credit? You need to understand because our whole business is going to revolve around this. A plastic credit, it's a certificate that we can give to someone else that represents an amount of recycled plastic that was recycled and not ended up in nature. So, for example, the one we're working with here with this company is called a CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility. One plastic credit, and this is the icon of the plastic credit. It's a beautiful flower of life. It's equal to 100 grams of plastic waste that was recycled. As simple as that. One plastic credit is the stored value of 100 grams of plastic that was recycled already, not in the future. If we recycled, then the plastic credit appears. And what is the use case for this plastic credit? It's for companies that want to make an effort and later will be forced to by law, but for now it's voluntary. They want to pay someone else to clean up plastic for them. So they're not gonna send their employees in nature, pick up plastic. They're gonna pay another company like CORSAIR to recycle plastic for them. And then they can become what we call plastic neutral if they recycled as much plastic as they're using in this month or in this year. We're going to talk about it more in the next two calls. It's very important. This is the first time you discover this notion. Know that we're going to come back on it time and time again. So the plastic credit is a unit that allows a company to pay for someone else to clean up plastic for them, basically. And this market is going to be worth billions and billions of dollars because it's going to be pushed by the law and the politics. Interestingly enough, Danone, Nestle, PepsiCo, Unilever, basically the ones that create the most plastic trash, they publicly say and support a plastic credit system and what we call the chemical recycling, which is what our partner is doing, what we're doing. We're going to recycle this plastic, redecompose it in almost petrol, and then make new plastic with it. We discover that in the next call. What is this super ecological and great recycling? But the point is, the ones that pollute, they are in. Why? It's not because suddenly they are conscious. It's because they prefer to pay someone else to clean up their mess. But the fact that we have the UN and the European Union and the regulators and the one who pollutes all together agreeing that this is the path forward, it means we're going to go there. And that's great for our business. If we look at the midterm predictions of what's about to happen, we can consider, of course, out of common sense, that the only way we recycle or we at least clean up all this mess we put in nature is if everybody is doing a little bit. And of course, big corporations, they do more, they pay more. But there is no way we're going to clean up this planet if we don't force everyone to do it, at least a little bit. So that's where we're going to go. They did the same for the carbon, even though there's a lot of scams over there. But plastic, you know, it's not an invisible substance that we're not so sure how much there is. It's obvious. Everybody knows and can see it in nature. That's why I love also this topic. It's hard evidence. You see the plastic is there or is not there, period. So we're going to move towards a global policy where all the companies, all the countries, and at the end also you, the individuals, everybody's going to have to make an effort and pay some money or contribute to an effort to clean up the plastic. That's very easy prediction, you know. What else can we do? So this plastic credit is the instrument to make it possible. It's going to allow the companies and even the countries to access this service, to pay someone else to go clean up for them and offset, so compensate their plastic imprint. I know that was an easy prediction, but still, it's looking very good. Now that more and more you're discovering what's happening on the market, it's looking good. You know, there is an opportunity and things are moving. Now, the processes and the technologies to make this possible, that everybody cleans up a little bit, we're creating it now. Because the market is moving, so it's the time to create how we're going to do. We're almost finished, guys. Actually, we're finished. Great. So let's do a recap, because I know it's a lot of information, but I think it was put in a way that is quite digestible. First of all, on the pollution, we said that we eat, you know, every week 1 plastic credit card of weight. So that's how bad the situation in nature is already coming inside of us. The problem we've seen, it's international, it's complex, and it's exponential. It's going to double again in just 7 years. So there's an urgency. There's no choice. And we saw that there is more plastic than fish in the oceans by 2050. So that's just, you know, a very easy recap of everything we've said. You can come back to the presentation, but slowly, slowly it's going to integrate itself. There's a big problem. It's going to be a big opportunity. The politics and the regulations, we see that there's a focus and a priority from the UN, the UNESCO, and the EU. There's a mistake on the slide. It was saying EU there. So we have the politics on our side. For once that we have the politics on our side and it's going to help us instead of going against us, that's quite unique, right? Second, France already paid 1.2 billion euro. So the fines are already implemented now. So we're already in it. And third, what is called the plastic credit, so this instrument to ensure that you can pay someone else to clean up, is going to be the platform and the best solution to bring everybody in the effort. First, it's going to be voluntary, and then it's going to be mandatory, same as the carbon. When something becomes mandatory, it's great for business, because suddenly all the companies, they just have to pay for it. So that's it for today. We gave enough content. Great problems make great opportunity. That's for sure. And on top of it here is going to do good for the planet in which we live in which the animals we co-create with, they live, and the planet we're going to give to our children. So here, you can really listen. You can make a lot of money and clean up the environment while surfing a wave of an emerging market. That's what this company and this project is about. And that's why I'm so involved, because I can see with my expertise, this is a good business and a good timing. So that's it for the core of the presentation today. Know that next time, in 1 week, we're going to be looking at the recycling technology of this company, which allows to remove the plastic from the environment, redecompose it in an oil to make new plastic with it, so that we can start to reduce these 10 billion tons and stop to take so much new petrol, which is going to make a circular economy. That's the whole point. We want to do with plastic the same that we have with glass, with paper, with metal. We want to make it circular. It's ridiculous to not reuse the plastic that is already made in order to make new one. We can do it, and next call, we're going to discover what is this technology. So thank you.